What's up, everybody? D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Monarch news roundup. That's right, in this video we will be continuing our chronological journey through the Monsterverse history by talking about the production and development of the upcoming Monarch series. And in this one we will be specifically focusing on events that took place in July of 2022. Before I begin, I just want to give a big thank you to all of you who wished me kind words on my last news video where I was pretty cranky. I'm happy to say that we did fight for it and things did work themselves out for the most part. We are back on track, but injustice still prevails at that university, no shock. At least this time I'm not being directly impacted and I'm only being indirectly impacted, but it still is not fun. Not fair to any of us. I also noticed this week that you ever notice how it's like the most annoying people are the ones who are your biggest haters, and then you really think about it and you're like, is that just me? Is that just that because like they're criticizing me, so I'm being sensitive about it and so they annoy me? And then you realize, no, they could just talk about anything in the world and criticize anybody and they're still annoying. They're just annoying people. I don't know, just something to think about. Which is also weird because it's like at the time of me recording this video, I've got less than a week left of college and then I graduate. What? By the time you're watching this, I think I will have completed my last class but still have work to do, which is weird. Oh man. The beginning of a new era, friends. I'm very excited. I need it. All right, let's get into this one. And oh my gosh, we are starting out with a bang this time. Starting out with Rabbit Howl's Awakening of the King art from Godzilla King of the Monsters. And this one just looks phenomenal. The buildings in the background are so detailed and the water looks incredible and the rain and the elements look great and Godzilla is so textured and so detailed and so beautiful. The blue lighting up his dorsal fins looks incredible. The blue in his eyes looks great. This picture is incredibly well realized and Ghidorah in the background has a perfect pose. He's looking amazing, menacing, scary, intriguing as well. I love this picture. I love all of the design elements at play here. I think this is a gorgeous piece. Rabbit Howl is a phenomenal artist. And speaking of phenomenal artists, it does not stop there. Nogur Chen has some incredible Godzilla King of the Monsters posters here. Nogur Chen released character posters for Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I believe they were doing anyways. I believe Legendary was already doing this, but they created their own artistic interpretations of these posters with a very moody Godzilla piece here. I'm loving the dark atmosphere to this one. Again, the light going through the dorsal spines and lighting up Godzilla's mouth with this great glow throughout the background and throughout the mist is great, and the darkness around the eye creates this intimidating feel. Then of course there is an epic volcano-inspired Rodan picture showing off the fighter jets taking on Rodan. This one looks amazing as well. I love it so much. This Mothra one is absolutely beautiful, featuring that incredible 2019 Mothra design in all her glory. I actually like how plump her body is in this picture. I kind of like that in comparison to what we see in the movie where she's a little thinner. I think that's very interesting. She's looking beautiful, and I have to mention the amazing King Ghidorah. Oh, what an incredible pose he's in. He looks so powerful and scary. I love the gravity beams spilling out of his mouths. He's looking fantastic here. These posters all look incredible. Huge shout out to Nogur Chen. Please go check out all this art linked in the description below. Moving into the news and updates, Legendary, or Warner Bros, I actually forget who, accidentally posted the wrong plot detail and series details for the Monarch series. Ironically, they are saying Monarch is an epic, multi-generational musical drama about America's first family of country music, coming this fall on Fox. I'm so excited for that show. I know that there's this weird trend in modern cinema where things just need to be musicals. Joker's becoming a musical. There's musical elements in the Marvels and the Hunger Games, and so why not bring it on in Godzilla? I stand by that even if this was a musical, it would not be our first Godzilla musical. Mothra was a musical. I believe it in my heart. Anyways, obviously it's just a little mix up here, but it is amusing nonetheless. KDM posted some clarification about how this Monarch series could happen and stick to the continuity of the Monsterverse itself. Now, this was also a point brought up in one of my recent videos about this Monarch series that I thought was an absolutely phenomenal point that really opened my eye to a quote that I never fully unpacked before. The news in Godzilla Godzilla King of the Monsters states that Godzilla hasn't been seen for 5 years. As I've talked about in previous videos, and I'll just reiterate it here because I think it's fun to be annoying. In Godzilla King of the Monsters, it's stated Godzilla hasn't been seen in over 5 years, which technically means Godzilla hasn't been seen since early May, because Godzilla King of the Monsters did not take place that late into 2019, meaning it would have had to take place earlier in the year. So really, theoretically, Godzilla doesn't have much stomping room to play around in the year 2014, but we'll give it the pass here just because. Anyways, Sam Coleman in Godzilla King of the Monsters states Monarch's known where he's at, and Godzilla's only missing if you don't know where to look. We have, of course, talked about that before. Also, they have advanced data on Godzilla and clarified that he spends a lot of his time around the outpost, but never comes towards it, which, of course, again, we've already talked about, and no, it's no surprise when Godzilla shows up at Outpost 54. It is just a surprise how close he gets to it, meaning Godzilla has been around there a lot of times before. However, here's the thing that my eyes were open to. They state that they have discovered 17 Titans and counting, most of them in hibernation. Most of them, but not all. And that tiny little detail is something I have never considered before. The fact that Monarch had to go around putting certain monsters into containment themselves, making them sleep. Now, of course, if I'm not mistaken, we are made aware in the Godzilla King of the Monsters novelization and the comic book material that some of the monsters were in fact awake. Like, I believe maybe Nakika or something was awake, or the Kraken or whatever. I believe one of the Titans was awake and that Monarch had discovered it when it was awake. But for the most part, I was always under the assumption that Monarch just put containment facilities over monsters that were already sleeping. However, here it's reiterated that some of them were not, which means Godzilla is able to encounter certain monsters in this series and either kill them off so they're not part of that 17 and counting that are alive in Godzilla King of the Monsters, or he can make them go to sleep, which Monarch could then put them in containment, leading to the events of Godzilla King of the Monsters directly. That is a super cool opportunity, and I hope they do something with that, because wow, that would be great. A Monarch crew update was posted on June 15th, which features some new members, features a line producer, executive producers, ADs, and many more above and below the line crew members, and I'm not going to list them all off starting now just because the crew is expanding too rapidly. However, Tyler Gibb joined as the lead storyboard artist for episodes 3 and 4, so this is our first major crew member for some of the middle episodes of this series. In fact, we have only heard about the first 2 episodes before this point. Shortly thereafter, KDM posted another massive crew update which featured a lot more above and below the line crew members. It featured also additional cast members. So adding on to Tim and Duval, who are our most recent characters, we also have potential word that Tamerlane Tomita would be joining as Caroline. We'll talk a little bit more about that in this video because we have some more concrete confirmation on that later. Caroline is a female, mid-50s, Japanese American. Caroline is a force. Spiritually, she is born and raised in the East Bay. She's a sarcastic yet warm character. She is Kate's mom and Hiroshi's first wife in San Francisco. She's also the one who I've been saying for many episodes now I think she might die, and now I think I'm wrong. I think I've been proven wrong. We also have teasers that a guest star is coming and would be announced as soon as possible. However, to this day, I still don't know who this guest star might be. My guess is that it's going to be Kurt Russell, who I would assume is going to have limited involvement in this show, whereas I think most of the time we spend with that character will be the Wyatt Russell version of that character. We'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. But that's right, we got official confirmation that Tamerlane Tomita, who is from Karate Kid 2 and Cobra Kai Season 3, would be joining the Monarch series. If she is playing Caroline, she will be a reoccurring character, and I do believe she will survive, given that we have seen her filming, as we'll talk about towards the end of this video. And there we go, now we have official confirmation that Kurt and Wyatt Russell would officially be joining the Monarch series, confirmed for the character Shaw, with ties to Eiji Serizawa and Monarch. As we talked about in previous videos, the Kurt and Wyatt Russell casting wasn't confirmed back then, but here it is confirmed now by the official Godzilla Twitter account. KDM made a joke about Outpost 32 and its connection to the movie The Thing. Of course, in the movie The Thing, Kurt Russell's character works at Antarctic Outpost 31. This is where they discover an alien which goes on the rampage and the whole thing blows up. Of course, in Godzilla King of the Monsters, Antarctic Outpost is 32. Michael Dougherty has teased that 31 was previously destroyed in an explosion, and that in his mind there are similar events to the movie The Thing that have happened here. Just some fun Michael Dougherty Easter eggs. We also have a character bio for the young Lee Shaw character. This young character would be seen in scenes set in the 1950s and 60s and would feature a military leading man version of the character who is still serving in the army, as opposed to the older version of the character we will meet, played by Kurt Russell, in the modern day. I think we've seen some of these scenes being shot later on, and we'll talk about those in this episode. A car stunt scene was scheduled as well. We have some notice pictures here so you can see the actual flyer announcing that this scene would take place, but basically what we learned is that a car will be driving and will flip over. Out of it, a stuntman will exit, and there would be about 130 extras present. I don't really know what the context of this would be, but given that it's a Godzilla show, it's safe to say that they were running away from some monsters. Set photos show the military at the relief camp. That's right, remember the relief camp we talked about in the last episode? It is now up and running and production has officially begun. Now I want to make it clear, I am not going to be showing off set photos for every batch of things KDM has talked about, and that's because I only want to talk about the stuff that was so blatantly public that everybody could have seen it and filmed it happening. I don't want to talk about the stuff that you had to kind of stalk the studios in order to find. I'll still mention it, but I don't think I'll really show the photos. Of course, I have never really shown the set photos in previous videos. Over the years, I have only shown the stuff that is very, very public, such as this. Filming began at the Monarch Relief Camp. Here we see them shooting with their expensive cameras. We see actors standing by on set. We see the military moving in full force. Lots and lots of extras. We see lots of military extras. I also think it's funny seeing everybody on the crew wearing their masks in between takes. Of course, COVID has really had a massive effect on the way that all movies and media is made these days. So you are seeing that here right now. There's tons and tons of crew people on this. Of course, previously we heard that they were going to be fitting up to like 150 to 300 plus extras on this set, and I was curious to see how they could all fit there, but here we go. We just see they're pretty packed in there, and it makes sense in the story given what's happened. San Francisco has been leveled. Of course, there was an enormous fight there, so a lot of refugees would need to flood these refugee camps, and they would all be overcrowded and overwhelmed. So I like to see that they're actually going for it with a lot of extras in real life, and it's not just going to be a situation where you have the cast members walking around this empty field and then you add in people in post. I'm glad everybody's there together. It gives it a much more real feel. We have some video showing the overhead filming, and basically you're just seeing a lot of crew members running around this massive set. Zooming in, it looks much bigger than it does from afar, and of course this is clearly taken from a very similar layout as we saw in the last video. Photos from this refugee camp feature our actress Anna Sawai. So these are our first unofficial looks at the character Kate for this upcoming television show. She shows up interacting with this other man who wears a backpack, and of course we have a picture here of what might be Caroline, and I believe this is the actress we talked about earlier. If I'm not mistaken, this is Tamerlan Tomita, which would indicate to me that she does in fact survive the events of San Francisco. So maybe she's not gonna die in a Godzilla attack, and maybe I was just completely wrong in my last video, but wasn't that a cool pitch? I still think it is cool enough to use. Kill her off. Go back and reshoot the entire show because it's a cool idea. I like the look of Kate. I like that she looks like just a normal person, and I'm glad that we're moving away from the monarch and the military of it all and getting into the actual civilian interactions and the way they respond to these events. Canada Graphs released an amazing set report on YouTube where he shows off a ton of great stuff. This is a very informative video. I highly recommend you go check it out. He stocks a lot of sets in Canada and gets a lot of great scoops, so go check him out, especially for CW content. We have some scene descriptions for Anna Sawai's scene. Kate shows up at the camp and walks past people and moving trucks until she comes to an old woman on a chair who she gives her food and a drink to. They sit together and chat for a while eating. So if this is her mother, I'm assuming they were together during the attacks, and that's why this isn't a big reunion. She later moves to a new part of the lot where she hugs a man in an excited embrace, and they chat for a while before having an argument that ends with the man leaving. So that is the man we saw in the pictures here. In this set report, we learned that a night shoot in downtown Vancouver was scrapped. We'll talk about that at the very end of the video. We also get to watch as the full sequence of Kate chatting with the woman in the chair, who I believe again is Tamerlan Tomita, plays out, and we also get to see the filming of the second sequence, where she is shown on her phone looking for someone, and then she spots him. They hug, they argue, and then she's handed a paper. She tries to take a bag from him, but it doesn't work. He tries to de-escalate the moment, and then he refuses to go with her. She gets violent, and he leaves. He has a ring, but she doesn't, so they don't seem to be married. I don't really know what their dynamic is. I'm gonna assume they're friends, but I'm not totally sure. Missing posters are seen showing the victims of the 2014 incident. FEMA posters are all over the place. A blue screen was used for helicopters and presumably additional smoke and rubble as well, and a slate reading Hourglass is seen. I believe this is our first official, truthful confirmation that the show's working title is Hourglass. Now, Hourglass is of course just a reference to the fact that the Monarch logo is an hourglass sideways. It could also have to do with something like time's running out, and maybe it's something very thematically appropriate. I wouldn't be surprised if the show itself is just called Hourglass, given that a show called Monarch is already airing. Filming at the Stevenson Harbor Authority dock was scheduled for July 27th through July 30th. I don't think we have any photos of the actual filming, but you can see here it's filming at a dock, and of course in traditional Godzilla fashion, I'm assuming that means that a big monster is going to be coming out of the sea. Filming at this dock was a 3-day shoot. I'm assuming it was probably a day of setup and preparation and then 2 days of filming. That would be my guess. The teaser KDM posted is something is coming, so again, I'm assuming that just some big monsters coming up out of the water. Probably Godzilla, because that's what he does. That is what he does. West Lantern and Westum Island were transformed into the 1950s Philippines. Shortly thereafter, filming began on this Philippines set, and this is what I was talking about earlier. I believe this is going to be some stuff to do with the military and in early days Monarch, even earlier than what we see in Kong Skull Island. So a very basic, still part of the military basically, group of Monarch hunting down monsters throughout the 1950s and 60s. It has been teased in later months, and we'll talk about in later videos, but the 50s and 60s were great times for Titans in the Monsterverse. We do know that in the Monsterverse itself, Godzilla was doing a big romp around through the 1940s all the way up until 1954, and he was chasing Shinomura around. We actually know that's what Shaw was involved with before the events of Godzilla 2014, so I'm wondering if they're going to touch a little bit upon that, or if this is going to be a brand new story with brand new monsters. That would be my guess. I think it's just going to take some inspiration from Godzilla Awakening is all. But here is where I think we will see our young Lee Shaw character running around in the Philippines chasing some monsters with, again, a monarch who has not yet established themselves as a secret government organization and is still basically a secret attachment to the military itself. About this island shoot, palm trees and stuff was being added to the place to make it look more tropical, because of course that stuff was not native when they added it. And again, this would be where the young Shaw character will probably have to deal with a smaller military organized branch of Monarch, dealing with, I'm assuming, monsters that the whole goal is to keep hidden. I don't think they're trying to kill them yet, or I don't think they know how, so maybe they'll be attacking them, but I'm thinking the goal here is going to be containment and hiding them from the public. Expect this to be similar to Godzilla Awakening, where the military and Monarch are very close and are hunting kaiju across the Pacific. I also kind of sort of very little, a little bit get vibes of the Godzilla 1998 movie when they were tracking a monster through, I believe, the Philippines? I actually don't remember off the top of my head, but remember earlier in the movie when they're chasing Godzilla and they track him into the South Pacific and then he makes landfall and they're like setting up tents and trying to keep him from the public. You remember that movie? I know you remember what I'm talking about. Yeah, that thing. It kind of gives me those vibes. And then the final note we have about this island shoot is that I believe filming began on July 29th with a dialogue scene and a little bit of action. There were Asian extras present and everybody was set in 1950s attire. I'm thinking the action might be some human on human action, probably maybe like a little chase or something, like maybe the Bangkok sequence in Kong Skull Island. I'm not sure. I'm just making stuff up, but that's just a guess. Maybe it was full on shooting at a monster. It could have been that as well. It just seems like that was a pretty small scale set, so I'll be surprised to see if it's anything massive. Yeah, I don't know why this night shoot in Vancouver didn't start. This was supposed to be what kicked off the outdoor filming for the Monarch series, but of course it just didn't happen. So we have these very kind of haunting photos of the empty streets of Vancouver with no filming going on, which I think is kind of funny. This filming could have either just been delayed or it could have been moved indoors, or any number of things could have happened that resulted in us not being able to have photos of it. Given that it was supposed to be filmed in outside Vancouver, I'm assuming it was just more San Francisco aftermath footage. Alrighty guys, that'll do it for this one. Thank you guys for all the support on the channel lately, and thanks for sticking with me here. I'm about to wrap up my college era, so I just need a little more time to decompress and deal with all of that stuff. There's going to be a lot going on in my personal life over the next couple weeks, and then hopefully I can hit the ground running with the channel, but I think we're going to have a lot of fun here. I want to give a huge thank you to all my patrons on Patreon for truthfully keeping this channel running. It really goes a long way towards making sure I can keep making videos like this for you guys. If you want to support the Patreon, you can use the link in the description below where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. And that'll do it for this one, guys. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man out.